All right, boys, there's no time to explain. I'm gonna need everyone who watches this video to like, comment, and subscribe, or I'm gonna come kick your grandma in the ovaries. All right, let's do this. Bye. How's it going, everybody? It's your boy Xerxes. Oh my God, Xerxes, Jesus Christ. I haven't used that name on my YouTube channel for at least 5 months. I meant to say Clay. What's up, everybody? It's your boy Clay here, and today we're gonna be reacting to an Epic Nate video about why I should learn how to fucking read. We have a pretty dark Elder Scrolls 6 update. And man, I was actually thinking about this at work today. I have no hope for the future of Elder Scrolls 6. I truly believe Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be a flop when they release it. I don't think they're going to follow any of the lore. They're going to try to add their own message in it. Even though, I mean, Elder Scrolls is already diverse as it is. Like, it doesn't even need any type of this woke nonsense and bull. Anyway, let's get to this video before I go on a long tangent about why I think Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be a failure. If you like what you're seeing here, if you enjoyed the comment, the commentary and all that lovely jazz, make sure you give me a like in the comment. Let me know in the comment section about what you feel about it, and let's get the video started. And I might be gay.
Yeah, how's it going, guys? It's Nate here. And we just got a pretty serious, in my opinion, kinda dark and gloomy update regarding the Elder Scrolls 6 that I'd like to talk about for a bit. Now, while I think I can fairly be described as a Bethesda YouTuber, I don't really do news or current events.
I would think he's a Bethesda YouTuber too. Every time I see this dude's channel, it's about Skyrim or something.
There are people who are much better at that kind of thing than me, and I got some other projects currently in the pipeline right now that I'm focused on. This is something of a one-off, just because I think it's really important, and I think my familiarity with Elder Scrolls lore and the exact people behind it can give this story a bit more context that may not be communicated elsewhere. Okay, so what am I talking about? Well, 2 days ago, at the time of working on this video, Samuel Horty, a freelance journalist working on behalf of PC Gamer, published a brief feature interview with Kurt Coleman, a former writer, programmer, and designer at Bethesda Game Studios, who had been with the company for almost as long as Todd and served as one of Skyrim's co-lead designers before ultimately resigning from the company just a week or so after Starfield's release in late 2023. You know, there are all these interviews and podcasts with former Bethesda employees you can find online these days, but Coleman is the highest up and possibly most impactful person at the company to have done something like this, in my opinion. He joined...
I would say, because he's been around for, I think this is Daggerfall, right? So yeah, he's been around for a long time.
Back in 1996, almost 30 years ago, where he was a junior designer on the Elder Scrolls 2 Daggerfall. After Daggerfall...
Yeah, exactly. That was Daggerfall. Yeah, exactly.
Daggerfall, he and Michael Kirkbride, a fellow writer and...
Bro, Michael Kirkbride, that was his name. A couple of days ago, I couldn't remember his name. I was talking about the lore for Morrowind, and it was pretty much written by this guy. And let me tell you, the Coder series, it is a mind fuck, but I love it. And the fact that, you know, some of it was taken out of the Elder Scrolls for Skyrim. Some of it, a lot of stuff that he wrote also was added in, made canon, which was nice too. But, you know, the fact that we don't have people like him working on Elder Scrolls games anymore, there's no way Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be even remotely comparable to Morrowind or Skyrim. There's just no way. Or Oblivion at that as well too. Just no way.
Designer pitched the idea for what would become the Elder Scrolls Adventures Redguard, and together the two were the game's co-lead designers and writers, alongside Todd Howard. There were some particularly big contributions made to the lore at this time by Kirkbride and Coleman that we can get into later. During Redguard's development, he also did much of the early narrative design work for Morrowind, but left the company in 1998 before the game released. Kurt returned to Bethesda in 2003 as a writer and programmer for Oblivion, where he worked on the main questline and later was the lead for some of its DLC. Finally, in his most famous position, Coleman was co-lead designer for Skyrim alongside Bruce Nesmith. He also did a great deal of quest writing and programming for the title, in some sense with...
So he worked on a lot of major games, actually. So yeah, this dude is definitely an OG. He worked on really some of the major successes for the Elder Scrolls series. So yeah, definitely OG.
Todd, as director, you could say he was the number 3 guy on this project. Certainly one of the figures most responsible for the game's development. Kurt has, of course, also worked a great deal on the Fallout franchise as a writer and quest designer for Fallouts 3 and 4.
I've got to say it, Fallout 4, because it was my first experience of Fallout, it's my favorite. A lot of people are going to be like, what? Fallout 4 sucked. And I went and played New Vegas. Yes, compared to New Vegas, I think Fallout 4 sucks compared to New Vegas. But because it was my first Fallout game, I had a good time playing it. I have nothing but good memories about it. It was a fun game. It was a fun game to me.
Though it's clear Elder Scrolls has really been his favorite series of projects. He was a systems designer on 76 following the release of 4, and
I played 76. When that first came out, dog shit, absolutely awful. I can't tell you what it is now. I haven't heard anyone even mention Fallout 76 in like, it's been years. But when it first came out, I played it. I hated that crap.
At long last, he concluded his tenure at Bethesda after being the lead systems designer for Starfield. I say all of this just to give you guys a sense of this person's position and significance within the company. We're not talking about a lighting artist or a junior programmer, not to say those people don't do important work, but this is someone who was intimately involved in Elder Scrolls lore, making some of the biggest and, I think, some of the best decisions in the universe's cosmology and story. At the time of his departure, a lot of sources described him as the Elder Scrolls lore master. Anyway, I've gotten a little off track. So, PC Gamer publishes this short, what I'll call a feature interview with him on January 15th. It's kind of weird. It's not a full interview. It's more like a series of quotations surrounded by context. My feeling is that the magazine did a long, formal interview with him, and now they're breaking it up into pieces to trickle out. Whatever the case, Coleman spoke pretty candidly, if briefly here, about his vision for what the Elder Scrolls 6 ought to have been like, and how some decisions around the game's production appear to have resulted in his resignation. The article opens with the alumni describing his frustration with the company's changing culture as it's grown since Skyrim.
That woke bullshit. I knew it.
Quote, "In the early days, it was a close group of developers, including Todd Howard, in a basement office making decisions and eating in the canteen together," he says. But new offices opened, and other studios were folded in by owners at Max Media.
And now instead of having, instead of having like a group of like 10 people working on like bouncing ideas, or maybe even smaller, like 5 people bouncing ideas off each other, now it's over 200 people all bouncing ideas, working on the same project, working on a story, scrapping this, someone's adding this, and it's just causing a clusterfuck. I can see it now. I can already see the problem right there. That these major developed studios need to understand that sometimes you don't need a big audience or big a set of workers to be there working for you constantly. Sometimes you just need a handful of people of the right workers. It doesn't matter what race, sex, identity, sexuality, whatever they are, as long as they fit the qualifications to do the job the right way, hey, then that's what the people that should be working on it. If you don't fit those qualifications, bye. Hasta luego, Cece. I'll see you tomorrow. I want to see you very soon again, but like, it's just get the fuck out of there at that point.
Including Battlecry Studios and Escalation Studios, both in 2018. ZeniMax was itself bought by Microsoft in 2021. By the time Starfield shipped in 2023, quote, "It's 4 remote studios all working together on a game," Coleman says. When you get to that size, you can't have people just popping into Todd Howard's office to chat about a design point. He's not having lunch with everybody. It's very different when it's 400 people.
What did I just say? What did I just say? I literally just got done talking about that. It's no longer a small group of people that can just bounce ideas off of each other. It's 400 fucking people all bouncing ideas. It's just getting confused. When people are like, no, I don't feel like that. It's a clown show.
Studios, big business, and now Microsoft is involved. He goes on to largely affirm what many former Bethesda devs who left after Starfield have since stated. The studio's massive size and new layers of bureaucracy introduced by the acquisition have led to frequent breakdowns in communication with cascading results for development.
And also, by the way, I just want to clarify, for something. I just want to point this out.
Stated. The studio's massive
If you look at
size and
this,
new
look
layers
at all
of bureaucracy.
this, you can tell it's old videos, but you know what I noticed in these old videos? It's all dudes, 100% dudes. If we were to go to a studio right now and look at the video of a studio, it would be all female, all women. Listen, call me sexist, call you whatever you want, but I think certain women just don't understand the value and meaning of games. They don't. They just don't understand it. They're just they want to put their message to oh, you should get your feelings across. We need to do love and harmony. No, I want to gut someone for looking at me wrong. Like, what are you talking about? When I play GTA, I drive on the sidewalk because I can't drive on the sidewalk in real life. I mean, I can, but I'd go to jail. I'm not trying to go, well, not jail, prison. I'm not trying to go to prison. No, I'm good. But in GTA, oh, absolutely. You better hope and pray that you're not on the same sidewalk and I'm in. So when it comes to shit like that, it's like certain women, and I'm not gonna say all women because I know some women who understand violence, but most women don't understand the violence in games. That there needs to be that dramatic, honor-bound violence where you killed my father. I shall avenge him by mounting your head on top of a pike, and then I shall fuck it every day for the honor of my bloodline. You know, like, that's the kind of shit I need in games. You don't get that no more, and I hate it.
Introduced by the acquisition have led to frequent breakdowns in communication with cascading results for development. He goes on to say that Todd Howard's increasingly large workload has been a particularly serious loss for the quality of the company's work.
I can believe that, actually.
Todd's a very good project lead, and fundamentally, I think he's a designer at heart. And he's good at it, obviously, if you look back at the games. But over time, as he got busier and every part of this larger and larger organization wanted him to do stuff for their project, he would get pulled away.
Facts. He can't be everywhere. He can't have his mind focused on every single thing that he's working on. So having all these people, all these things, something's going to get skipped. Something's not going to get fully paid attention to. It's going to cause an influx of problems over time.
Unquote. Howard made good decisions, Coleman says. So when he wasn't around, games suffered. Sometimes choices made in Howard's absence needed undoing later. Another point our interviewee brings up is that throughout much of his career, even when acting as a co-lead designer, Coleman was constantly able to get his hands dirty in a lot of the development work. He would write and script quests, move things around in the creation kit, but as the company grew and grew, there just wasn't the time for that. Lead designers were doing so much managerial work that they lost touch with what was actually going on the development end. Quote, I didn't want to work that way because I like making games and being hands-on, he says. It had gotten to a scale beyond where I was really enjoying working in that environment.
Yeah, because at that point, it's no longer you working on something you enjoy. It becomes a menial job. It becomes the same job that I'm doing right now. A job that I hate, that I'm just doing just for a paycheck. And games back in the day, those games weren't made just for a paycheck. They were made for the true pleasure and the true art of wanting to show someone a story that you created with a group of friends. And I think that's how if I remember correctly, Elder Scrolls was created because it was originally a D&D campaign that they made into an actual whole series with its own lore and story, and it's amazing. And it's just like the people who created games like that through enjoyment and from the heart, we're losing those people. Now we just have people who are just creating games because it's a job. It's just, let's get the job done, get it over with, and move on to the next project. Let's go, keep it pushing, keep it going. It's like a factory. And if you ever worked in a factory, there's no fun in factories.
Now, here's where things really started to catch my eye. Coleman states that following the release of Skyrim, Todd Howard had promised him that he would be the lead designer for the Elder Scrolls 6.
And he owed him? No. No.
A huge position. It would essentially make him the game's number 2 guy, second only to Todd himself, who's increasingly busy with other stuff and would likely be somewhat deferential. Not only that, but Coleman suggests that work on the Elder Scrolls 6 was supposed to begin in earnest, at least as far as he originally believed, immediately following Fallout 4's release.
What? Bro, don't tell me we should have been had. Do not tell me we should have been had Elder Scrolls 6 by now. That's insane if that's the case. That they've had so much malarkey happening that the pushback has pushed it so far. Bro, how old was I when Fallout 4? I was in high school when Fallout 4 came out. I was in high school. Bro. Oh my God. This is insane.
But for whatever reason, the company decided to pivot. First to development on Fallout 76, and then later Starfield. Coleman had waited around for this promised role for all this time, tolerating detour after detour, and by the time the company was finally ready to start work on the next Elder Scrolls, he claims that Todd did not keep his promise, and he was asked to accept a different position. Quote, Coleman states that after Skyrim, Howard verbally promised him the lead design role on the Elder Scrolls 6, which was supposed to be the next project after Fallout 4.
11 years. Oh. Bro, you've been waiting on 11 years. You 11 years you were promised, hey, this is your job, you got it. 11 years pass by, they look you dead in your soul and say, hey, bro, go eat a dick. Oh, I'd leave too. I'd leave the company too.
Now we're quoting him verbatim. Of course, after Fallout 4, we didn't go to TES 6. We made Fallout 76. And then, even then, we didn't make TES 6. We made Starfield, which had become this extremely long project compared to the other ones. So, from my point of view, I've been waiting like 11 years to be the lead on TES 6, he says. I was obviously one of the old-timers there and had a lot of experience. Bruce and I...
the old-timers with a lot of experience that should be leading. He should be leading with the younger guys, like, hey, do this, do this, do this, do this. Give them all the experience so that when the older guys retire, the younger guys can keep the story going in the way that the fans love and admire and enjoy. Now we won't have that. Oh my God, I have no hope. Elder Scrolls 6, I have no hope.
Had been co-leads on Skyrim. I think most people would call it a successful project, so I thought that it wasn't unreasonable.
Skyrim, of course Skyrim was successful. A game that released like 10 times, yes, successful.
For me to think that I could be a successful lead on TES 6. It wasn't just my expectation, I had been told that was going to happen. And they made the decision, no, you're not going to be the lead. The article continues, he remembers that being a tough conversation, and that Bethesda's leadership hoped he'd be happy with a different position. Todd said, well, we want you to have an important role on the project, but what I wanted and what he wanted were different at that point. Unquote. Kurt Coleman, someone who I think can fairly be called one of the founding fathers of the Elder Scrolls franchise, perhaps the person most involved in the universe's lore and cosmology, at least by this point, is essentially describing...
Bro, this is insane. You host someone who is carrying your series. Wow. People, bro, I don't know what it is. I just feel like lately, companies don't like money. Like, what is with these companies that don't want money? Do you not want the people to just throw their wallets at you? Like, I don't get it. All you have to do is give the fans what they want. And what they want is this guy being lead designer for a game because he legit has written damn near all the lore for the whole series up into a, for the current game because there's no other game. So yeah, he's written all the lore up into the current, maybe not Elder Scrolls Online, but up until that point. So it's like, you just gonna hold him? That's crazy.
Being an enormous rug pull, and
that's exactly what it is. It is a rug pull to him and to the fans. Honestly, it's a rug pull to both.
Something of a betrayal. He doesn't explicitly say it, but this seems to be why he resigned from the company after Starfield, and it's hard to blame him. Now,
Yeah,
this isn't
I
the end
quit
of the
too.
interview. Again, Coleman does go on to talk about his ideas for Elder Scrolls 6 lore that, I suppose now, are unlikely to be implemented. But before we get to that, there's some more implicit information these quotes convey that I want to hone in on. Remember how back in 2018, when Bethesda announced Fallout 76, they also had that really short video essentially promising
remember
that
this,
they were
yeah.
working on the Elder Scrolls 6 and it was coming. Well,
I remember what made it hype because at least that little cinematic trailer was hype because at least it was like it confirmed it was going to be an Hammerfell. I was going to say something completely different. It was going to be in Hammerfell, which is cool. That's awesome, great. But it's like, is it going to follow the lore? But now, I mean, now it's just because of all this time. I mean, 2018. It's 2026 now, bro. Like my hope for that game being good is out the window. I'm dead and gone.
Well, Coleman's interview pretty conclusively suggests that the game didn't even have a lead designer or likely any major staff members picked out, let alone working on it, until around the time he resigns in 2023. Maybe a bit earlier? My guess is that Bethesda's leadership informed Kurt they would not be keeping their word sometime during, probably late in the development of Starfield, and he decided just to finish his work on that game and depart
and
as
then
soon
get
as it
out.
finished, which adds up. Coleman formally leaves the studio just a week after Starfield's release. He had certainly made up his mind before then. What this likely means for TES 6's development is that the company really didn't begin meaningful work on the title until late 2023, early 2024. Back in August of 23, IGN reported Pete Hines, then Bethesda's senior vice president of marketing, went on the record and claimed that the game had just entered early development. And boy...
Wow. Early... Oh yeah, bro. If that game comes out, and that's a big fucking if, maybe 2030? 2035? Maybe. Maybe. Fuck, bro.
Musty have been telling the truth if the company was barely setting up who the game's leads would be. In fairness to Todd Howard and BGS, Coleman's only one side of the story, and we really don't know their reasons for this rug pull as it's described, or if it really went down like that. You know, I've watched dozens of hours of interviews with former Bethesda devs, and I've frankly never seen any of them speak openly like this negatively of their experience. It's clear a great many of the people who have since left the company are frustrated with what's happened to the workplace culture, the communication breakdowns and whatnot. There's probably some selection bias here. You know, if you leave the company, chances are you have grievances. But they always word it in very polite, very moderated ways where they focus on the positives and really keep their criticisms to the periphery. Coleman, in no uncertain terms, just says that a big promise was broken and that's why he left.
Yeah.
Maybe there's more to the story here. I can say, given that he was offered...
There's probably definitely more to the story, but what is 100% fact is that he was hoed. That's an undeniable fact.
A different position, it seems highly unlikely that the matter was disciplinary or anything like that. Maybe, I don't know, maybe they got Hideo Kojima or something. It's also likely that the author of this article is picking out the biggest pieces of intrigue he can get. Very likely that Coleman had many more nice things to say about the company that were excluded from this feature for editorial reasons. Hopefully, we'll get a follow-up with more information. Thankfully, the interview doesn't end here. Coleman goes on to briefly lay down his vision for what the Elder Scrolls 6 ought to have been. Quote, he even knows what he would have done with the game's story, or at least what he would have liked to do.
I'm curious.
I had in mind that TES 6 was going to be like The Empire Strikes Back, he says. The Thalmor, the elven supremacists who were peripheral in Skyrim's story and ultimately wanted to control all of Tamriel, would be the bad guys who come out on top.
Meaning it would have been the Towers theory. So he would have had the probably continue the story of the theory where the Thalmor were gonna get all the as much land and probably unmake the world, most likely. But they would, I mean, obviously they would probably leave. But he saw, I mean, but it is true though, evil triumphing would technically be like a restart of the series too, because not only can you could have the Thalmor doing that and winning, but the cycle can be restarted because, well, I guess you can't really, because if the Thalmor win, then they all go back to the etheric rub. I can't think of what it's called off my head, but I mean, well, I mean, I see his image, I see it, I love it, and it sucks that we won't get it.
Top, setting up the Elder Scrolls 7.
Yeah. So yeah, it would be, yeah. Oh my God, I see it.
The feature continues.
That would have been
he
so
saw
good.
evil triumphing as a welcome alternative to the chosen one idea Bethesda often relied on. The player might have secretly saved the day at the end of TES 6, he says, for example, by protecting an heir to the throne, so you've preserved hope for the future, but overall, it looks like the Thalmor are on the march.
Yeah, so yeah, that's pretty much that's kind of similar to this the Towers theory. It has very similarities to the theory and can confirm it. But at the same time, a story where evil winning and the player can, might technically win on a technicality is technically like what Skyrim or the theory, what isn't really confirmed, but Alduin was supposed to be the destroyer of the world. So the Dragonborn who came in and killed Alduin, it's theorized that maybe actually the Dragonborn killing Alduin will actually lead towards the destruction of the world, because Alduin actually wasn't doing his job, which is why the Dragonborn was created in the first place, to make Alduin do his job, basically. So it's one of those things where it could be a story where just because the hero or loses, they can win still, or vice versa. Their hero can win, but can still lose.
Unquote. There you have it. Kurt Coleman, an Elder Scrolls founding father, and at least at one point, the promised lead designer for the Elder Scrolls 6, laying out his vision for what he would have liked it to look like. Now, I really want to dive into the statement, its implications, and how some other Bethesda developers have lent credence to Coleman's ideas in their own interviews, but first, let's wrap this article up. He ultimately doesn't think Bethesda would allow an Elder Scrolls game with a bad ending. And with the pace of its releases, a cliffhanger is completely unfeasible, he says. That's not a good way to end a game and say, we'll see you in 10, 15 years, unquote. The interview finally concludes with a final quote by Coleman explaining that he doesn't even know where in Tamriel the game will be set, joking that his friends who are working on it can't tell him. Bit of a side note here, but assuming he's telling the truth and really doesn't know where the game is set, which I don't believe, I think he's being sarcastic, it would imply that the company hadn't even settled on a setting by the time he left in 2023. An especially grim omen for those of us who have been hoping.
Wait, but I thought wasn't that what they call that demo they released for the preview? The trailer, that's the word, couldn't think of it. The trailer they released, didn't they release that in 2018? So did they just bullshit us?
Hoping for a sooner rather than later release. Now, back to Coleman's idea. A Thalmor victory with perhaps a small undercurrent of hope for the future in the background. On a personal level, I think this is a great idea. Something that ends with an actual defeat would restore a lot to the stakes of the universe and the way they tell stories. It would also let the company evade tough questions about the resolution of Skyrim Civil War. Oh, that? What does that matter? The Empire's in chaos, the legions are smashed, the elves are taking control one way or another. Whether Kurt imagines a somewhat linear, unchangeable central narrative like Skyrim, where Alduin is defeated no matter what, or if some degree of player agency in determining a side is allowed, isn't obvious. Clearly, these were ideas he had in his head, which, sadly, may never be realized. Fellow Bethesda alum and Coleman's co-lead designer and writer on Redguard, Michael Kirkbride, has actually suggested something similar to Coleman's vision. Kirkbride, like his friend, worked on Redguard, did some pre-production work on Morrowind, some contract work for
Yeah, he
Oblivion,
did
and
way
later
more than
temporarily
that on Morrowind.
rejoined the company to work on Oblivion DLC under Coleman. It's very clear that the two are close friends. They've got something of a bromance going, and it's easy to imagine the
their
pair
lore is
staying up
amazing.
late on
I
a
would
long
love for
night,
them
bouncing ideas back and forth between each other. I talked about this in my Eye of Magnus video recently, but Michael has literally dedicated short stories to Kurt, and while he left after Oblivion before Skyrim, the two seem to have remained on good terms. One could even envision a world where, if Coleman had gotten his promised lead design gig,
Bro, if he got in that position, Michael Kirkbride probably would be working on it, and oh my god, we'd probably see Vivek again. Or at least, no, it's not Vivek. Isn't it like, it's, at least in Coder, Vivek is now a woman because I believe she Amaranth, I want to say. Bro, that's that deep lore we're getting into.
his old friend
That's that
may have
deep
had a
shit.
part to play on the game. I'm kind of riffing here, I'm just putting this together in my head right now, but while Michael Kirkbride is not listed anywhere in Skyrim's credits, he does claim to have been involved in a few conversations about the game's narrative.
I was gonna say, why is Michael Kirkbride not even? I mean, a lot of his lore was even adding it to Skyrim too, to make it like canon.
And its systems that would have been difficult to credit. I would not at all be surprised if those early conversations were with the game's co-lead designer, Kurt Coleman. Anyway, while he hasn't formally worked for the company in an official capacity since the Oblivion days, Kirkbride has been a uniquely active contributor in the community, regularly writing little unlicensed short stories, which are technically just fan fiction, and
Listen. Yes, they are technically fan fiction. I don't give a fuck. All right, the man wrote so much lore for the series, so much of his lore that he wrote. They made a lot of it not a lot of it. Some of it canon that you can find in the story in Skyrim right now. So it's like, hey, in my opinion, I take what he says a little bit serious, but don't get me wrong though. Coder, that whole future shit is man. Ooh, that's a mind fuck right there. But still, it's great and I love it. It's awesome.
frequently popping into lore discussion threads on forums, even hosting little lore AMAs. One such AMA went down in November of 2013, 2 years after the release of Skyrim, where one user asked the following question, quote, "Would you care to offer some insight on what a more accurate aspiration for the Thalmor's realization of their goals would be, insomuch as it's even possible to write in a sufficiently concise and cryptic manner for an organization that operates on bureaucratically saturated information overload in more or less everything they do?" Kirkbride's response was, "The Thalmor is easily the most dangerous organization in the Orbis, more so than Talos. They cannot be understood. They are the other, and they hate everything that even smells like mortality. And they're going to win in the end."
But that's the thing. Oh, God. See, now I want to go on a whole tangent of, but if they win in the end, that means they unmake the world. Will the cycle just end, and will everyone just be gods again? Or at least whatever. They're not even technically gods, because to call the gods in the Elder Scrolls universe gods, it's not even wrong, right? Because in truth, there's only one real god in the Elder Scrolls universe. So it's like, to really call them all gods is inaccurate. They're all just powerful spirits, if you really want to get technical. But that's just, yeah.
Unquote. Now,
so
Kirkbride
good, and they're
is
just
somewhat
ruining it.
famous for cryptic, undetailed, rambling responses that fail to dive deep into the meaning of questions, and this is no exception to that rule. He just promises an inevitable Thalmor victory, something that I've always written off, but...
But here's the thing. I feel like in the lore of Skyrim itself, I mean, in Skyrim itself, the world, I mean, Paarthurnax even states the world has to end at some point. I mean, that's the whole like hidden message. Like, is it really? Are you really stopping the end of the world, or are you making sure it goes on? Are you actually accelerating? Like, did you really save the world, or are you leading it towards its destruction?
Now,
be the
put into the
Thalmor.
context of Coleman's own statement for his vision, you have to
Or
wonder
at
if
least
maybe he was citing
could have.
earlier
Not
conversations
anymore,
with the
sadly.
man who is slated to be TES 6's lead designer. Thalmor lore remains vague and not well fleshed out, intentionally so. They're clearly a faction.
Thalmor lore remains vague when it comes down to the modern day way of the Thalmor. The actual how they used to act in the olden days when they were just like protectors of the religion of the High Elven way for the Aldemary Dominion, and beforehand, you know, they weren't really as racist as they are now.
Of elven supremacists who have brought the Empire
But
to
that's
its knees,
ESO lore, I
but
think they
whether
added
the
that.
faction has a specific
I played the
cosmic
fuck out of it.
endgame or not
Not
remains
anymore, but I used to.
unknown. Many players have speculated that they seek to uproot the Mundus, Nirn from the laws of reality itself, allowing themselves to
theory.
return
Yep.
to their ancient primordial beauty. Others predict a more grounded plan to end the human race, but so far nothing
It could
is
be both,
confirmed.
honestly.
Coleman's insinuation that perhaps the player helps save an heir to the Empire or something is particularly interesting and somewhat well precedented, though. Longtime fans, or those of you who have played the remaster, may recall that The Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion ultimately ends with the death of the last Septim Emperor,
Yep,
Martin, and the subsequent end of the Dragonborn Septim bloodline. Well, in a 2019 interview at PAX East, Todd Howard actually claimed that one of their original plans for Skyrim was to revolve around a missing hidden Septim bloodline descendant who had gotten lost in Akavir, returning to reclaim his throne with an army of dragons before the company.
In my opinion, I really wish they went with that, bro. That would have been so cool because I am so interested in Akavir. Now, I don't think we're ever going to get a game on Akavir, especially with Bethesda going down the route it is right now. It's never going to happen. But man, I would love to get more information about Akavir because the Sayesi, the Tangmo, the oh god, the Snow Devils, I forgot their name. I would love to learn more about them so much.
He decided to move in a different direction. In response to a question about theories, Howard said, quote, "I think that they're all good. Like I said there, people want to know truth. But even my perspective is one version of truth of what happened in the history of Elder Scrolls and so forth. I would tamper their desire to have all mysteries revealed, because mysteries are good for a fantasy world to have. What is beyond the ocean? Would you do a game in Akavir? These are things we have thought about. I could sit here and tell you lots about Akavir. Actually, one of the original Skyrim designs had, I think it was Uriel the Fifth, returning from it with his army of dragons to retake the throne. But it was sort of like, keep the mysterious lands mysterious. There's enough to do in Tamriel proper. As time goes on, I like to have those elements of mystery or really strange things that you can't wrap your head around."
Yeah, but I mean, like the biggest mystery you have in Elder. I mean, there's a lot of mysteries we have in Elder Scrolls, especially don't even get started. Like Tamriel itself has a lot of mysteries. Don't even get me started on the Oblivion Plains. The fact that in Elder Scrolls Online they've introduced more Daedric princes, bro, that right there could be a game on itself. Just explaining a single Daedric prince, like Athelia, bro. I can't wait to learn more about her. Okay, I like the Athelia lore, but hearing all this news about the current state of the Elder Scrolls or Bethesda is like it's heartbreaking that we'll probably never have another game that can rival what Skyrim was. It will never happen.
Unquote. For those of you who don't know, Uriel V is a character we read about in books from Oblivion and Morrowind. He was an Emperor of Tamriel, a Septim bloodline dragonborn, who attempted to invade Akavir with a massive army. But contact was subsequently lost shortly after his departure, and his host was presumed destroyed. Thus, his son was crowned Emperor and life.
Whether he's alive to this day or dead in lore technically has never been confirmed. He could still be alive, he could be dead. He could be dead in lore now, but maybe he mated with some Sayesi people or some soldiers he had there, and the bloodline continued. Never know. We definitely will know now.
Bethesda has kept this character and his potential descendants in their back pocket for a while now, and it's very possible that this is what Coleman was thinking about when he suggested saving an heir that leaves hope for the future. Whatever his exact vision, evidently it is not meant to be. I think Bethesda made a giant mistake by letting this guy go. He unironically seems to have been one of, if not the most knowledgeable figure regarding the lore left at the company. Apparently, even while he was working on Fallout 4, 76, and Starfield, the ESO team would constantly field him questions. A lot of ESO lore that gets attributed to Kirkbride's fanfiction stories was likely greenlit by this guy.
Oh, see, like I said, even so, ESO is another game that confirmed a lot of Michael Kirkbride's stories. Like, again, that's why I like Michael Kirkbride, because specifically his lore is it's so good, it's crazy, it's wacko. Like the Nords doing cocaine fight the snow whales or something like that. That's some crazy lore.
During Redguard's development, he and Kirkbride co-wrote The Pocket Guide to the Empire. That was a physical book that shipped with copies of the game, containing in-depth descriptions of all of Tamriel's provinces and races for the first time. And the lore in that book ended up shaping the setting and stories of every game since. It's just really unfortunate that he had to depart, and we can only hope that TES 6's eventual lead designer is as knowledgeable and as...
Hey man, I know. We can only hope, but there's no fucking way.
Enthusiastic as Kurt always was. I really wish there was a more upbeat and positive note I could end this video on. I do take a lot of pride in how generally positive this channel is. You know, a bunch of fun lore investigations, and this video just isn't that. But I think it's information worth getting out there, and I think I'm able to add some context about the roles of the parties involved that I haven't seen in reports elsewhere. Anyway, regularly scheduled programming on this channel will soon resume. I got a couple big long-form videos in the pipeline that I'm working on, and I'm excited to share with you. Hopefully one of them will be ready in the next week or so. Probably closer to 2 weeks, if I'm being honest. Anyway, thanks for watching, everyone, and I hope to catch you all in my next video. Peace out, everybody.
Oh man, hey, appreciate the news. That was a good, bro. It is absolutely sad that we're just so cucked. We're so cucked. We're so pucked. We're so fucked. Elder Scrolls 6 is gonna be. It's probably not even gonna come out. The fact that the teaser was put out before any development is just insane. It's been almost a decade since the teaser. At this rate, my toilet is going to come pre-installed with Skyrim before we get, bro. Facts, absolute facts. This counts as my YouTube shorts for the day. Okay, bet. That's funny. Oh my god, this is absolutely sad. It's heartbreaking. But hey, let me know in the comment section what you feel about it. If you have any hope that Elder Scrolls 6 might come out, if you believe that they can somehow just even make the game playable. I don't think they're even making the game, honestly. I just don't. I think we're just fucked. But anyway, I'll see y'all next one.